All right, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of the Late Afternoon Glass Off. Joined with myself and Zac today is Callum Robson. How are you, brother?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on the Largo.
All good, bro. Thanks for making time out of your busy schedule. You just had a pretty quick turnaround after Newey. We'll get into all that because obviously some pretty exciting stuff's happened. But kind of went looking for a little wave this morning, didn't find too much, and you've joined us in the Studio of Dreams, the Largo podcast in Skenner's Head. Zac, you've also got a little bit of news that you wanted to share with everyone at the start of this one?
Well, I'm trying to debunk something and find out if this is true, but are you familiar with Kim and Ray Scully?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right, it's true.
Yeah.
We're somehow distantly related through... I texted Dad and I said, can you give me a quick rundown?
Yeah.
It's my dad's side. Your grandmother is my dad's mum's sister.
Yeah, I don't know how it works out, but I know we are related somewhat. The Scullys are on my mum's side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did know that distantly. Me and Pete have talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, Dad
Small
said
world.
Yeah, he said he started surfing with Kim and Ray at Air Force Beach when he was like 14. But then it all came about, I was working at HPC with Pete.
Yeah.
And we'd been working together for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then one day he just came in to work with this look on his face. And he's looking at me like, I think we might be like somehow related.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then that's where it all came about. And then he's like, he's your cousin?
Yeah, Pete's my cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were just sitting there trying to scratch our heads for like 2 hours going, I wonder how.
Yeah.
So,
We actually got
true.
ChatGPT out and we were like, write this in. Like we wrote in the exact relation of what it was.
Yeah.
And it turned out your first cousin's once removed or something.
True.
So that's the
Yeah.
official
term.
Yeah, but I don't really know if you can claim that one too hard, Zac. It might not be your claim to fame.
I'll go through it again. So your grandmother is my dad's mum's sister. I don't even want to start what that sounds like.
Yeah, it's confusing.
That is super confusing. But anyway, I'm glad it's true. It's a small town.
Yeah. No, I did know about that, and it's interesting. It's a small world.
I apologise that you're attached to the Whitemans. We're a pretty strange bunch. But just wanted to jump right into it and get everyone up to speed on where you're at in your life right now. Exciting times, obviously.
Yeah.
I did ask ChatGPT about you. We've done that with Chris Cote as well.
Yeah.
And we like to see what it spits out because it's can be either dead wrong or kind of spot on. And it categorized you as the blue collar battler. Is that right? Is that true? Or do you feel like that's a misrepresentation?
I don't know. Like I obviously hear that a lot with the way the commentators speak about me, and that sort of stuff. Blue collar battler. I don't know. I guess like my trajectory wasn't like a lot of others. Like I probably didn't have as much early success as a junior surfer. But yeah, I don't know. I think just like the way that obviously as well, I didn't have backing from major sponsors from a young age. I kind of had to do it an alternative way. So I think that's kind of probably where that stemmed from. And probably just not having the flashy skill set like a lot of other surfers. I feel like that's kind of, I'd make a lot of my heats based on just like heat IQ and just understanding what needs to be done for the moment rather than just like flaring up and creating like really impressive next level performances. So I guess that's kind of what my career has been like built off so far. But the trajectory of where I want to go, I kind of would love to like rename that a little bit or just like kind of reinvent how people think of my competitive performances. And that's something that I'm in the process of doing and have been as well. That's kind of the narrative that I bought into a little too much when I was on tour last, is that I kind of went away from that progressive style of surfing that I kind of got to the world tour by doing through like the QSs and the junior events. Like I would go to airs at different times to make heats, and it was something that I like loved to do and something that I was quite confident doing.
Yeah.
But then since getting on tour, I kind of was not pigeonholed, but I started to get rewarded for my on the rail surfing. That was something that wasn't like, I was like okay at it and I could throw spray, but my rail surfing wasn't actually that developed. But when I got on tour, so as I got on tour and started getting rewarding for that style of surfing, it just kind of pushed me in that direction. And to be honest, like doing airs on the World Tour waves is gnarly. Like a lot of these waves are like hectic and they're solid and they're meaty sections. So to be able to do an air, and as well at that time, the way the judging was, it was like they weren't like, I remember seeing Italo do like one of the gnarliest, it might have been a front side like full road at Margs, and he got like a 6.5. And I was like, there's not much incentive to like, because like I would be that chuffed with that punt and I just got a 6.5. So it's like also just like, I don't know, just a culmination of things I feel like led me to kind of just like let go of doing the airs. Like I brought them out from time to time, but it's something that I've worked on. And to answer your question, I feel like that is kind of the reason why I probably got that name a little bit. And I'm from like a small town, Evans Head, just down the road here. Probably doesn't have as much limelight on it as other areas, like whether it be Lennox, whether that be the Gold Coast, Northern Beaches, like those sort of areas. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's like I just come from a pretty normal family and just like my mum and dad both work and still do work. So it's like, but I'm definitely not like killing it in any sense.
Well, so yeah, it's real, but you want to change that.
Well, I just want to be me, to be honest. Regardless of whatever that's attached to that doesn't bother me. But I think that the way that I'm innovating my own approach should probably warrant a little bit more than just that tagline.
Yes, absolutely.
So like whatever people say about me, that's out of my control. But I probably just don't associate myself. Like I love to just like, I've fallen in love with the process of being a surfer and trying to improve myself across the board, whether that's with business, whether that's with surfing itself. So like, I love working hard and just like trying to just like do as much as I can with what I've got. So like, regardless of like, kind of the blue collar, I feel like that kind of resonates with just like working hard and just getting after it and a bit of grit.
Discipline.
A bit of discipline, which is like probably I feel like one of my best traits. But I guess as well, the storyline behind that I probably didn't mention was I left school, started year 11 to do my carpentry apprenticeship with my old boy. But that was basically a bit of an excuse to just surf more. Like my dad was pretty lenient with me. And it was just a bit of a running joke of the town that I was an apprentice carpenter, because I would get up early, I'd train in the morning, and then I'd go surf, and then I'd roll into work about Smoko, and then like work for the day and then like go surf in the afternoon. So it was a pretty like relaxed apprenticeship, although it was still like made me realize just how much I hated being an apprentice carpenter and how much I hated being on the tools. But that kind of real life experience drove me to get after what I actually wanted, which was trying to be a surfer. And at that point, to be honest, being a pro surfer was pretty far out of my grasp. Like when I left school and started doing that, like there was no guarantees, and it definitely felt that way. But I just knew what I didn't want to do was be on the tools, and what I did want to do was be involved in surfing in some capacity. And that's when I started working at the HPC, started doing some coaching, and I literally just was like, if I can do this for the rest of my life, like that's pretty sick. Like I started to become pretty content with like being within the surf industry, being around really good surfers, trying to figure out ways to improve my own surfing. And it was basically like when I was working at the HPC, it was just like a training camp for my own self. And I just like really just dove deep into everything surfing and just like tried to understand the sport inside and out as best I could to see like how I could maximize my own performance. Because I remember I always used to say the one thing I don't want to be is that old guy in the pub, like that's saying that fuck, I could have done something had I had a crack, and I just wanted to have a crack and see how well I could do with what I had. And I guess like that's kind of where I landed with the apprenticeship and realizing that that's not something I wanted to do, and I just went, that won't be me.
It's kind of like it's a similar, I guess, thing in some regard to almost like what I've done and what Zac's done to some degree. Like you're buying yourself time to then, obviously you knew that wasn't probably going to be your pathway, or not your ideal pathway anyway, but leaving school and doing that allowed you to surround yourself in the areas that you wanted to be in. And then in doing so, I mean, it was probably maybe a risk at the time. I don't know how you were going at school. Maybe something in the trade was going to be your route anyway, but it allowed you to chase your dream and put yourself in the coaching roles that you're in and build yourself. And it's basically ended up now where it is your career full time. You've got a couple of businesses off the side, which we do want to get to later and talk about. But yeah, man, it's just really impressive to see where you come from, because I remember even when we were younger, like we were about the same age. You're a couple of years younger than me, I believe, but like you, and I don't know if you want this publicized, but you came down and did like a Lee-bar round and stuff like that. And we'd see you, and you were a good surfer, but there was no real signs early on that you were going to be on tour. You know, it was like, oh, he's the best in the area, or he's one of the best in the area. But it's like going from the best in the area to a world-class surfer is night and day. And your progression just came on so quickly. It was insane. Like all of a sudden you're winning pro juniors and you're getting really good results in QSs and things like that. And it's like, holy crap, where did that come from? Like, what do you attribute that quick, just out of nowhere progression from? Is it lots of training in the background or just surfing? What did you find was doing that for you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just like quite an obsessive individual. Like if I decide that I want to do something and that's like something that really I'm passionate about and excites me, I'll just go all in on trying to do it. Whether it's like it's been like golf at different times where I've tried to just go all in on that, or it's like when I was early it was rugby league and then it was surfing. To be honest, like the fact that surfing was so hard for me, I came from playing I played at Bale the Seagulls before I started surfing more and more, and we used to win absolutely everything. It was just it just the harder I went, the better I played, and footy came just very natural to me because that was something that I always did since I was a young grom. But then going from that to surfing, I absolutely sucked. And I remember my first ever proper comp was I went to the Ben King, and I just lost first heat, and then did that next comp, which was I was trying to do regionals and everything, and I just kept losing for so often. It was almost felt like 2 years of just straight kind of losing first or second round, maybe making 1 or 2 heats. And then I guess to your question, just the feeling of sucking at something that I really wanted to be good at and understand just made me really, really obsessed with getting better. And I'm always been competitive, and I just I love the competition aspect of anything. That's what really drives me. I want to try and just because I feel like that's a bit of the pinnacle of performance, is performing under pressure when you have to.
Absolutely.
So for me, just I attribute that my quick progression just to my obsessive nature to just learn and understand and have a really good lens on just what it actually takes to get better.
Absolutely.
Just being honest with myself, being being accountable to things I say I want to go do. I've been training since day dot, from a physical point of view. And that's something that when I was going around the juniors, I always used to go just get frustrated because I would put more work in than anybody I knew by a country mile, and I'd still get beaten by crew that I know were just cruising, going beers on the weekend, and I was just what is going on? But it wasn't until I actually realized what it actually took to be successful in surfing and changing a few different key aspects that allowed me to then actually start having some success. But I'd say that physical base of training made me feel a lot more confident about just the work I was doing. I felt from a young age I've tried to leave no stone unturned, and that's something that's important to me. And I feel to your question, I'd just say my obsessive nature around trying to improve.
And it's a funny difference because obviously you're good at you're really good at footy growing up too, and to go, I'm killing this. Surfing is really difficult, and I want to be good at that because the thing with footy is that you can control a lot of the outcomes in that as well. If you're having a bad game, you can take a run or you can go and make a heap of tackles and bring yourself back into it. Whereas surfing is, you can be as good a form you've ever been in and you just may not get a wave. And it's just two completely different setups. And I guess maybe that allure of the extra challenge of surfing and I guess the luck and the different factors that come into it has been a positive for you, getting into that. And then I guess, do you feel like you're at a position early on where footy was a career option, or were you sort of just good in the area, do you feel?
Well, when I was super young, even under 10s, I was beyond obsessed and just would just love footy, just play it as much as I could. Just all I wanted to do is play footy. And when you're that young, it's hard to know whether you have to see that's beyond young to even comment on whether
100%.
I was actually a legitimate chance of being so I don't feel like it's fair for me to say that I could have or I couldn't have been. It was just I was decent, like you said, and it's there's so much time between when you're 12 years old to when you're 18, 20, when you start actually playing professionally. So I don't really think it's fair to comment on whether I could or I couldn't have because there's so much time and so many different factors. And I definitely felt I understood it and understood maybe what it took. But I felt I was just good for the area probably.
Fair.
And you've touched on loving the process and discipline, which I feel is going to be a common theme throughout today's discussion. Just based on that, what advice would you have to a Grommy who is 12 coming through that is getting knocked first heat, is just copping it and having someone every age group's got that kid that just kind of goes through and waxes everyone. For me, it was Ethan Ewing. we had Caleb Tankred on. He was an absolute prodigy coming through. But what's the advice that you'd give, and you are currently giving, to younger kids that are kind of feel like down and out but have that potential?
Yeah, well, I just think you don't have to look far for stories like mine. Like, even within like Morgs, like I know Morgs was like good as a junior, right? But he wasn't like a prodigy.
Yeah.
Even Connor, to some extent, was that similar story. So it's like nothing really matters until you start to get to that like 16, 17, 18. Like, that's when it starts to actually matter, and we got to start like kicking things into gear. So like, I see a lot of kids like burn out at a young age. So I just think fall in love with surfing, fall in love with self-improvement, and as well, just like the results, like, all it's about is just trying to improve, and did you get better? And I think just redefining what success is. It's not actually outcomes, and that's why I feel like a lot of us get tied to. It's just defining our success based on outcomes and achievements, and that's a really rocky path to go down, because like you said, in surfing, you can feel like you show up really well, you prepare really well, and you do your best based on what you could control, and just things might not fall your way. So if you're always defining your success based on an outcome, you're going to be disappointed more often than not, and really upset with yourself. And as well as like being upset, like, this is a normal part of losing, and it's important to feel that, because that's got to drive you to go and improve and get better. My advice to kids when they're young and they feel like they're doing the right things is just like, continue just to look at the areas, assess what you did well, assess what you didn't do well, and just like, as well, I didn't take things serious till I was like 16. Like, that's the other thing, is that like, these kids are so young these days. I'm not even like, to be honest, like, I wasn't thinking about this stuff when I was that age.
No.
Like, this come later on in my career. So like, I just think kids just got to have fun and just love surfing. Like, it doesn't feel like hard work when you love what you do. So the more you can just love surfing, that's how you're actually going to be able to work hard, but you're actually just loving what you're doing. You're doing what you love. So therefore it's not working hard.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most common misconceptions. Like, people can't work really hard at something they don't like. It's just like, it's really hard to actually do that. But if you work, you can quote unquote work hard and it look like really hard work from the outside, but you're just loving what you're doing. Like, tomorrow, I'm going to be surfing all day because the wave's going to be cooking.
Yeah.
And people might go, oh my God, how did he surf that long? It's because I just love it and I want to get barreled.
Yeah.
And like, that's what like lights me up. So like, when you lock into that intrinsic motivation, you can go all day and it doesn't feel like hard work.
100%.
That's my take anyway.
I love that. And you talk about loving the process. What do you do to make sure that you continue to love the process? Because discipline it's easy to understand, but it's hard to put into like actionable tasks throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like, what are the kind of your protocols that you've got at the moment that you go, that just kind of feeds your machine to elevate you to where you're going now?
Well, I think it's just like, understand what's important right now, and those priorities change from time to time. Like at times I won't surf for a couple of days, for 2 to 3 days, and like, because I just don't feel like surfing, and it's like, it's not lighting me up. There's other areas in my life that's more important, whether that be like recovery, or whether that be coaching or business or different things like that. So it's also like, for me, I've always just followed my heart and followed where my passion was, with like still not losing focus of my goals competitively, but knowing that, like, last year was a pretty good example for me. Like, I was doing a lot but not getting a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this year, I'm still, my like saying to myself is that I don't have to do it all to have it all. So like, for me, trying to just realize, okay, how can I use my time better to actually achieve what I want, but do it in a more potent way where there's more intention, there's more purpose behind actually what I'm doing, rather than just trying to fill a day and like, just like burn the candle at both ends, which is probably what I felt like I did a little bit last year, and my results reflected that. So I kind of just reevaluated like what actually matters to me, which is like, okay, my physical prep, my mental prep, my skill acquisition, and then like the business side comes on, like because I'm somebody that I can't just focus on one thing. Like, I've got a brain that works very quick.
Yeah.
So I like to always have two sides of my brain, like working at different times, and I pick up things and I focus on them more at a different time, and then other times other things will be a priority in my life. And I think that's a healthy thing to do if you operate in a similar way that I do, to just balance out everything you want in your life. Because like, when I go surf and I'm fully committed, I'm fully like intent and focused on those sessions. So yeah, to answer your question, like how do I stay motivated and what's important to me, I'd say just like really assessing what's important in my life right now in shorter blocks, like whether it be month or 2 month blocks, and then creating a plan and then going really hard at that plan. and then adapting it along the way. But like I'm somebody that like I like to have like a bit of a block and a bit of a goal, and then just like, okay, work back from that goal and that through that block, and then realize what's my daily actions to actually achieve that.
So like reverse engineer it almost, start with the final product and come back that way.
And that's something that I've been like talking to a few groms about. It's like, especially when they're trying to figure out who they are and what they want to work on. It's like, well, who do you want to be? Like, and kind of get really clear on who you want to be and how does that person act? How does that person wake up in the morning? What does that person do? How does that person go about their competition preparation? Like, and if you really get clear on who you want to be in, say, 5 years, you can work back from that and really get a good understanding and almost a pathway of how to go and achieve that. And you work things out along the way. You work out what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, that's probably my answer. A long-winded one, but
I fucking love it because I think you hit home for me. Like I feel like the past 12 months for myself has been busy but not productive. There's a really big difference between being someone who looks busy and then they justify themselves by going, oh fuck yeah, you know, what have you been up to? Oh man, I've been busy as. But like if you're not actually achieving anything that's, you know, driven towards your goals, then you kind of just run in circles. And I've definitely had parts of the last 12 months where I feel like I was doing that. So yeah, that definitely hit home for me. Just going back to some of the qualities, and I think this is where discipline might come back in. You, as you've touched on, had a similar career path to Connor and many others. So not obviously smashing it through the 12s and unders to the 16 and unders. The common narrative is you have to do that. Then you smash the pro Deweys. Then you make it onto the regional queue. You make a bit of pocket change. Then you hopefully get kissed on the dick by fairy, make the Changa, make some more pocket change, and then fingers crossed to make it onto the world tour. You spent some time on the tools.
Yeah.
Is having a side venture important, do you think? Because we had this discussion with Caleb. He took, was it 5 years off? Something like that. Went and got a degree in engineering. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying this or off the mark, but I see a few crew that look to be burning out like you're talking about. Is it because they just haven't had the professional experience outside of surf, do you think? Or is that a necessity or is it just a plus?
Well, I think like it's hard to give a one size fits all sort of answer because like there's so many different people out there, and the more I dive into what it takes to perform and try and understand that to be able to teach it back to other kids and other individuals that want to be highly successful, you realize that there's not one way to skin a cat. For me personally, somebody that's like that likes to do a lot of different things and is multi-passionate. For me, it's really healthy because it helps me be more purposeful and more and have more intent when I go and do each individual thing. But yeah, I definitely think there's an element of that, and there's definitely an element of these kids that just surf the whole time don't realize how good they've got it, and they don't understand what real life is. And I definitely didn't understand. Like I grew up with a pretty good sense of reality around like what it actually means to like go and work a job and realize how much that sucked, and then being like, I never had sponsors that paid me throughout my whole junior career. So it was like to be able to like know, and I was very fortunate where my parents helped me out a lot to help support and try and get me to different events. And obviously when I got a little bit older, I started working a bit to help fund that. But yeah, I definitely think it's when you understand what a normal job is like and really understand what you don't like, that can definitely help fuel you to go after what you do want a lot more. And I also think there's an element of healthiness to keep the surfing like really fun and enjoyable and exciting, because like as much as surfing is such a dream career, at times it does get a little bit like old and maybe not as exciting. So I feel like to have something that can kind of freshen things up and take you away, let you think about something in a little bit differently, and maybe go pursue a different career, or even just have something on the side you're working on, that can really help freshen up that kind of surfing. And especially for young kids, I just feel like at times maybe they don't realize the other opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was not on the tour or anything like that, but when I was working as a surf school instructor, everyone was like, oh, it's sick, like you're at the beach, you're in the water. And it's like, yeah, but when you've spent 2 hours in waist deep water pushing in backpackers, the last thing you want to do is go surf after. So that's actually one of the reasons why I went into aviation. Aviation is the polar opposite of surfing. Like it's avgas and logistics and things like that. And it definitely sparks that. It's almost like a factory reset.
Yeah.
When you spend too much time in the water, like you said, you're just like, fuck, like, yeah, this is starting to feel a bit bland. And then from the outside looking in, you're like, fuck, how do you say that? Like, you get to fucking surf and travel the world. It kind of, then that annoys you because you're like, oh, I know that, but I'm still feeling the way I'm feeling. So I think that's really interesting take, like, to have something, do you call it a side hustle? I'm not sure, but just having that second, I don't know what, side hustle, job, anything like that, enough to just kind of tell you why and give you that purpose. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I agree, and I just think like I'm also very aware of like how good surfing is, right? Like we're aware of how good it is, but you can't diminish someone else's feelings towards what it is. Like like even like you said, like you feel a little bit guilty almost saying that fuck going surfing all day is like sometimes a little bit like can be like a little bit draining and like a little bit taxing at times, and like people really have a hard time like understanding that you're a human too and you feel like that. But like you just mentioned, like it's reality at times. Like sometimes it's just like going and doing and like being around, even for me, like coaching and surfing and stuff, like I'm lucky that for me the coaching work kind of freshens me up a little bit, but it's still, like you said, it's still like in that space. So I definitely see how you can feel that way, and like I've felt it from time to time. I've talked about Connor. I talked it to Connor when I first got on tour and was kind of feeling a little bit burnt out at times, or just like I didn't really feel that freshened up to just go and have that purpose for my sessions. And he was really good and just kind of talking to me through just like like having a week off is fine. Like go freshen up, like go do something completely different. Like go to the hills, like go inland and go get an Airbnb and just go cruise, like go play golf and do something completely different. And like giving yourself that permission as an athlete is probably important to just kind of let go and go away. And as well, like slowing down to speed up is probably something that I've got to understand even more, but like something that I've kind of grasped the concept of. And you can't, like, if you're going at this same intensity all the time, it's very hard to, like, by nature, like, being really intense all the time is hard to maintain. It's like a car going at 110 clicks for the whole time. It's going to burn petty way faster than a car just going 60. And not to say you go 60 all the time, but you might be going 100 and then you might back it down to 40 through it, like, and you're going to have more petrol in the tank to go quick when you need to.
Exactly right, yeah.
So that's probably a concept that I have adapted in the past, left a little bit at times, and probably something that I struggle to do, but is really important.
We're sorry, Finley, you can ask a question too. I feel
No,
like
that's right. No.
This is a very mature conversation that you're attacking this from. Who's in your ear? Have you got someone kind of going like a Gandalf just in the background going like, Cal, do this? You seem very switched on, very well spoken. Have you had anyone in the corner kind of, I don't want to say puppet strings because that's not what a mentor is, but is there someone there on your side going, think about this, or a bigger picture things?
Yeah, I definitely think about everything myself, but I've had like a lot of influence from Jason Patchell, who's my sports psych. He's somebody that I like. He's the first ever person I went to when I was really struggling competitively. Actually, that's not correct. I went to Richo first and started doing surf coaching with Richo. But then when I was still kind of really struggling mentally at events, I went and seen Patchy because I was like, he was at Surfing Australia. I still wasn't in part of the program, but I started having a little bit of success. And I just went, because Pete was working at Surfing Australia then, and I would just ask, can I see somebody about like helping me psychologically? Because like I said at the start of this chat, when I went to surfing, I just sucked at it. And that just was just like, I would like have really bad losses and just like would just wig out and just felt like I would freeze in the moment. So I started working with him from an early age, and he's really shaped the way that I think a lot. And I'd say he's probably my biggest influence around the way that I think, and just like probably my maturity psychologically, because it's an area of sport that I think is so important.
For sure.
It's an area of sport and life. Like
so overlooked.
Before I was successful, I really like, when I started to become successful and understand, it was direct correlation to me understanding who I was, what I stood for, like my values, who am I as a human, what lights me up. Like I did such a deep dive into understand who I was as an individual. And that's what's allowed me to thrive, is to actually just like purely understand myself on a very, very deep level. And I think that's something that is scary to a lot of people, and it was scary to me, and it's uncomfortable to work through, but that unlocks you, that really unlocks your potential to kind of go after what you want. So like to answer your question, he's been a massive influence. I've had different mentors through the track, like Richo helped me a lot with the way in the early days around just shaping my competitive approach. And then I'd say just like different individuals like David Ginju actually helps me a lot, just like kind of someone to chat to and talk through some different things, and just a very kind of wise older guy to kind of help guide me. And then apart from that, I talk to Pete probably the most out of anyone in my life. I'm always on the blower to Pete. Like he does that drive back and forth from Evans, and we just talk through different things, and I just talk to him about ideas I have, and those conversations just help shape me because he just gives me a different lens on things, makes me think about it a different way. But as you can probably tell from this conversation, I'm a bit of an overthinker, and I think deeply about a lot of things.
You're speaking to the right people.
Yeah, and I've had to really like learn how to use that thinking brain to my advantage.
Yeah.
Because it is such an asset for me, but it also trips me up in a competitive environment at times. So it's understanding when it works for you and when it doesn't. And I actually had a really good conversation with Connor at a Grom Games event that I did in Evans Head, which is part of the Project 6 work. And he spoke about him understanding himself, understanding that he's a bit of an overthinker at times, and then realizing how does he use that to his advantage. And that was really, that really resonated with me. It was nice to hear another competitor speak about that.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
No, that's gold. Because that overthinking thing, it can, especially as an athlete and especially in surfing, it can be, like I said, your best friend, or it could literally bring you unstuck.
Yeah.
So to have control over that is vital, I guess, for your line of work. And I do want to circle back to that in a bit because, and your sort of psychological training of yourself as well, because we're going to start running into some of your competitive success here and where it started. And it's kind of become quite apparent to people, more so as of late, how you're able to pull together clutch performances when you need it. Couple of events this year come to mind, which we'll get to. But I think the first one, and you're going to need to walk us through this because this was off the back of COVID. So the whole qualification setup was just skits. And I was trying to like wrap my brain around it. And I think I've got it. But if there's anything wrong, pull us up on it. 2021, believe you win the final QS event of the year, of the Australian year, to qualify for the challenge. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you beat Mitch Parker in the final there. Then you go into the Changa. So it's one of those weird COVID years where they changed the qualification setup. You only take your best 3 results.
Yeah.
You qualified in your first year with a 5th place at Huntington, a 9th in Aracera, and a 7th in Haleiwa. So 2 questions here. Obviously a scenario that really rewards consistency. Did you feel ready to jump onto the big stage, given you only had still good results, but they're middling results, and you only surfed in a select few events? Did you feel ready to jump onto the big stage after that?
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting question, and probably like one of the most important turning points in me understanding myself in a competitive environment and actually how to do well.
Yeah.
Before that Cabra event, I think I was ranked like 15th.
Yeah.
I needed to go jump into the top 10 to actually make that event and make it onto the Challenger Series. And prior to that event, I had a concussion. Yeah. So I was somebody that prior to that was very disciplined, regimented in the way that I'd approach getting ready for an event. I'd surf every morning no matter what. I'd eat the right things, everything. It was just like perfect. And for that event, it completely shook up the way that I prepared for an event because I was concussed. One, I couldn't go surf 3 to 4 hours a day or whatever I was doing before just to try and feel like I got ready for the event. Yeah. I really had to strip everything back and just focus on what I could control and what actually I felt mattered at the time, which was like, okay, if I can dial in my my positioning, my wave selection, really understand, okay, what have I got to go out there and do, and just trust my surfing. That's what kind of that experience told me, was just like really trust my surfing, build that belief that I don't have to go and do everything to do well in this heat. Yeah. And that's kind of a concept that's like pretty interesting in itself. It's just like, it's almost counter to what a lot of us think, and we get told it's just like work hard and go hard so much around events. But for me, what that event told me was just like to kind of pull back and not go as hard in the lead up and just trust my surfing. And then I ended up, like you said, going through and winning that event. Yeah. That put me right in the spot for the Challenger Series. And through that, I realized, wow, that's what actually helps me perform. It's not going as hard as I need to before an event. It's actually pulling back, like recovering a little bit more, focusing on my recovery, feeling fresh, like trusting my surfing. I don't have to chase anything and that's kind of like was the main shift. I felt like before events I was always chasing that feeling of ready.
Yeah.
But like, and this is a bit of like a patchy thing, is like readiness is a choice.
Yes.
So making that choice to be ready before I go, and go like, you can't get any better in that moment. Like you've already got, you're as good as you can be. So like the more you just show up and just trust that and let that come out more often, like come out more kind of naturally rather than forcing it. And that's kind of what that taught me. And then going on to the Challenger series, to your question, no, I didn't feel ready. Like I went in there, and I remember a conversation with Pete like multiple years before that. I made the decision. I was like, I don't know when I'm going to qualify, but I know I'm going to qualify for the World Tour. And I was prepared for that to take me 10 years. Like I was literally like thinking, I'm going to go at this for like 10 years, because at the time I was coaching at HBC, making enough money, just cruising, like not killing it, but just like being able to get by. And I was like, if this takes me 10 years, this is a life I'm happy to do. Yeah. So I feel like letting go of feeling like needing results in that Challenger series was really important. Then the other thing is that, to your point, I didn't know how my surfing was going to match up. This is the first time I competed in those like 10,000 rated events, or those Challenger series events. And I was just like, my one goal when going on that Challenger series was to beat as many CT surfers as I could. And what that did for me was just like, instead of going to that event wanting the easy path, I kind of accepted like qualifying was a massive goal, and kind of sent me out of my depth. Out of my like hands. And I was just like, well, if I can go into this event and really showcase my surfing and see how my surfing gets matched up, then I can have a really good understanding for the years to come what I need to do to qualify. But I just kept that same approach that worked for me at Cabba, not chasing things, just kind of trusting my surfing, backing my approach, doing what I normally do, and doing it well on those competition days. And before I know it, like I got the 5th at Port in Huntington, and I was like, wow, that's a good start. And then I was like, went to Portugal and got like a 9th or something. And I was like, that's all right too. Like I'm chuffed. And I was just like doing my surfing, and one of my competitive advantages I feel like is I throw spray when I do turns, and that's like something that kind of pierces through the levels and just allows me to have scoring potential wherever I go. But I was also just wondering when I got to that level how that was going to actually fare up against other people that threw spray. But what I realized is that I actually throw a decent amount of spray, and that's kind of what was getting me rewarded along that Challenger series kind of schedule. And I got to France, I got a 17th or something, and then I was going into Hawaii just a few spots out, needing a result to qualify. And I just like still was like, wow, I can't believe I'm in the position I'm in. Like, this is pretty crazy. And then like Haleiwa is a way that kind of suits my surfing, and I really like, it's really fun to me. So I worked with Patchin, I worked with Richo through that event, and just like kind of just kept going about it the way I did. And all of a sudden I was in the like semi-finals and I'd qualified, and it all just happened like that. Not intentional, not setting this big goal that I'm going to qualify, just literally understanding that like through focusing on probably more of the process orientated things, that's what allowed my performance to go well, to actually be somewhat of a high level, and then end up qualifying. But my goal was literally to just beat as many CT surfers as I could. So I was like relishing those bigger matchups, whereas like I feel like a lot of people try and probably take that easy path to success. And for me, I was just like, well, I don't really think I can qualify anyway. So like I might as well just try and like get as much experience and see how my surfing matches up with the best surfers. And that was my kind of journey through that.
Yeah. And that you kind of answered my second question there, because I was going to say, like, you see a lot of people get onto the Challenger series and they don't quite crack it in that first year. And then it becomes almost like a cycle of almost, or they might have a few shockers, but it seems like the longer you're doing that tour and the more the judges get accustomed to your surfing, the harder it is to actually break through. My question was, did you feel it was important to do it in 1 year? But by the sounds of it, you were prepared to go for 10 if you needed to. So that's kind of answered itself. Obviously, you get through. You're on tour after that, which is just insane. You take 3 best results that year. They're good and more than good enough. Actually, you nail it. And 2022 is your first year on the big stage. Really impressive portfolio results this year for a rookie. You had 4 9ths, 2 5ths, and which is already a good year for a rookie on tour. And then you have the cherry on the top with the 2nd at Bells. Philippe gets you there. Your run through this event was a solid one. You consistently sitting around that sort of 13 to 15 point heat total, which, I mean, it's more than good enough. We've talked to Connor about this and a few other guys before as well. accessing that higher score range on the judging scale, you for yourself, hearing that you're able to drop sevens on the world tour and scores of that nature, because anything above a 6 on the world tour is like you're ripping, you know.
Mhm.
And for yourself to break into that 7-point plus range, was that a real confidence builder for you moving through that event, going, oh, like I'm just doing my meat and potatoes surfing here, but it's enough and it's getting me through heats?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, like, at the time I was talking to Pete about, and we were tripping because I was like, I swear I'm only surfing like 70% and I'm like getting these scores.
Yeah.
And I think like what the judges were buying into is kind of like my like deeper bottom turn. It kind of like really kind of like, yeah, it sets a lot of like intent for the wave. And like you said, I was just doing my meat and potatoes kind of surfing, and at times not feeling like I was really surfing my best, but still getting rewarded for it. And I was kind of like just like joking with Pete. I was like, wow, if I can get a heat where I can really open up here, like I'm gonna actually like oh, this could be sick. And I was like, and yeah, like you said, I felt like for me, I was surfing probably 70% of my best around that time. But that's also another lesson in itself. Like, I don't want to keep like going into these deep combos.
No,
but
I love it.
But like for me, like that's what I've also learned is that like the stage and the environment is so intense, and just like, and there's so much emotion and different things going on that your performance naturally lifts. So like what I did that first year and through those different levels was just focus on what I did and just try and do that as best I could. I didn't try and be someone I didn't try and go and do a different approach that I'd never done before. I just did what I did normally, and I felt like those environments just lifted my performance without me actually having to put any additional pressure on me going out there to rip. And that's something that I see a lot of people, and I still get hung up on time to time. It's probably my lesson from the start of this year, or like this Challenger Series season that's just been, was just like the idea of just letting the performances come naturally rather than having to like going out there to rip. Letting that just happen naturally. And that's kind of the lesson that I've learned over my career, is just allowing those performances to just flow, and really work on your surfing outside of the event to really lift that performance. But then when you get into the event, just let that natural performance and that level that you've built just shine through.
It's kind of like your baseline performance level.
Yeah.
That's what you have in the, like, obviously you probably have free surfs where you go, I'm surfing as good as I've ever surfed here. And it's not always possible to replicate that into an event, but as long as your baseline is where it needs to be, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, and there's a saying that like a psychologist says, like Jonah Oliver, he says that competition is an ordinary performance on a special day.
Yeah, right.
And it's something that resonates with me, is that it's an ordinary performance, but you can't discredit the specialness of that event. That event's going to naturally bring you up, but you just need to be your ordinary, like boring self, basically. And I know a lot of people would probably turn their nose up at that comment, but when you're already at a very high level and everyone surfs really, really well, all you have to do is continue to build that level up outside of competition. Then when it comes to competition, trust that all that work you've done and the improvements you've made, and let that just shine out naturally. And it's just for me, it's just a process of that. Exactly. Trying to improve your level as much as you can in between events, then letting that natural baseline, your ordinary self, just come out. And that's something that resonated with me and has allowed my performances to kind of come out a little more naturally and a little more, like you said, just trying to understand what it's going to take for me to unlock my best.
Yeah, that's huge. You get into the quarters. I'm guessing young Australian lad growing up, Mick Fanning's probably your hero, or one of them. Talk us through nailing him on the buzzer in the quarter. You need like a mid-7, and you get a wave at the end. Were you just going like, did you think it was a score? Like when you took off, did the wave look like it was a score?
Yeah, the wave looked good enough for sure. And I remember paddling into it, and it's something that I've been working on at Bells, was just patience on the wave. Because when I was patient on the wave, I just picked my moments a lot better, and my surfing just looked visually better. And I remember before, that was kind of my word that I focused on for that event, especially in the bowl. And I remember Bells is a long time in between sets. You see them coming for a long time. And like a process that I was doing then was just like taking one nice big deep breath to slow myself down, because as I see that wave coming in, I'm starting to go, this could be it. This is going to be it. All right, here's my chance. And I'm starting to like speed up. But I remember just taking one nice big long deep breath through my nose and just going, patience, Callum. And then I remember just taking off and surfing that wave, like, And I remember I kind of started a bit safe, and then I was like, and I was on a board that Sparrow made me at the time, and it was kind of a wider, it was meant for small waves, and that wave was kind of a big wave. So I felt when I was paddling, I was like, I'm on the edge here a little bit. But it was like one of those magic boards that you probably know, Zach, like when you're going in competition, sometimes you have that magic board you want to ride, and sometimes the conditions like go on the edge of being too big for it, but you're just like, you're so comfortable on that board, you're like, I'm riding it anyway, and I'm going to make it work. And I remember being on that wave going on the first turn and going, holy shit, like I'm almost gonna skip out. And I was like, oh, the turns haven't been that sick yet. And then I remember on the last turn on the bowl, like I drove a little bit wider to wash off speed, so that the board bit in a bit better. And then I remember coming up and doing like a carve that felt pretty sick. And I was like, all right, well, that was like that felt nice. Like, and I was like, that was probably my best turn I've done on the bowl this heat. After comboing it with some like semi-average turns beforehand. And then I remember going through to the finish and just like seeing there was like one big section. I was like, all right, I got to hit this as just well as I could. And it was kind of sketchy. And I remember just hitting it and going, oh, wave's done. And then I like looked back up and I was like, oh my God, there's another section. And then I went back up, hop, 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 and did like another little turn. And then I did just kind of like the grindiest claim I've ever done. And then I was just like,
warranted.
But I was like, that's got to be somewhere there.
Yeah.
And that's like what I think a lot of the time when I'm in those moments and I need a score. I went, fuck, surely that's got to be somewhere there. I'm never somebody that's going like, that's 100% the score. Like, or at different times, or like sometimes I am, but I'm just like, it's right around that kind of thought process of like, that's got, like, come on, give it to me. That's got to be somewhere there. You're more so proud of actually being able to handle that moment and actually execute, rather than the score. You're just like, come on, like,
absolutely,
that felt nice. Like, surely give it to me.
It's almost like that reward for just like being able to control your emotions in that moment and get the job done. And whether you get the score or not, obviously, ideally you get the score. It's just nice to finish on your feet on the beach and go, all right, well, I've done all I could here.
100%.
From there, like, obviously, Philippe, you progress through Miggy Poops in the semis. Philippe does you in the final, which, I mean, for you at that point, second place is probably just, you're on top of the world, right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Weirdly, so obviously before we have the pre-cut and the post-cut, you make that final a few months later at a different venue. You get significantly more prize money for it afterwards. You kind of go, well, you just at that point is going, I could not care less at this point. You're just like, whatever.
Absolutely no care in the world.
Not even worried.
At that point, the cut, I was coming into that event needing to make that heat with Mick was a really big heat for me, qualification wise, like, and to requalify for that, that challenge, not challenge, to requalify for that cut and be on tour for 12 months and actually earn your spot. And yeah, that heat was probably one of the biggest heats of my life at that point.
Wow.
It was definitely the biggest heat of my life because I felt like if I made that heat, I got a quarter and I was on my way to, like, I'd already had a few nights, I think maybe 2 nights, and a quarter of them would have put me in really good stead to requalify for that cut line. So yeah, that I was just chuffed, and that's the most money I've ever single-handed had deposited in my bank account.
What was the first purchase? Anything juicy?
Nah, no juicy purchase. I was just like, nah. I still drive my Holden Commodore. That's like grindy as, and it's like probably worth about $1,500. So I didn't buy anything extravagant. When I like do well in a contest, I love to just go have a real good feed. Yeah. So just treat myself with either a real nice steak or just something like a bit nice. Like, that's probably my way of celebrating, and just like, that's kind of my way of like, that's what I enjoy to do after a good result. But yeah, you obviously, when you got a bit more cash in the bank account, you're able to do different things you want to do, buy different things you want to buy if you need them.
Yep. What's the fit like? Is it just you just get a notification and you're just like, holy shit? Like, were you just wigging?
Yeah, well, like that when I was making heats, and it's like kind of, I probably wouldn't encourage it. It's probably not the right thing to be doing. But I remember after every heat I made, I went and checked the spreadsheet and was seeing how much coin I was making.
I used to do that, but it was more about $60, $75.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, and I was like, oh my God, if I make this next heat, it's like 20 grand.
Yeah.
So if I make this next heat, I've got 20 extra grand. And I was just like, and like, yeah. And then I guess like through like understanding myself psychologically, you can understand all the facts around what you need to do, but then still focus on what you need to do to actually win.
For sure.
Focusing on whether it's going to be 20 grand or not in the moment doesn't help you at all.
No.
So,
but it's good to think about it a little bit.
Well, it's good to not. It's not that you need any motivation, because staying on tour is like enough motivation. But at the time, I'd never made money in my life. Yeah. I'd never filed a tax return or anything like that. So it's like I'd never made enough money to actually warrant even being in that conversation. So like to start to have money come in, I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We'll get there one day, finally.
Yeah.
Ours is lots of red.
Yeah. Well,
No,
that's my last 2 years.
it's so sick, man. And I guess in doing so, like obviously you requalify. You give yourself those extra 6 or 7 events or whatever it is. You're making coin there anyway. So if you fall off tour there,
Yeah.
suddenly you're back to Challenger Series money rather than CT money, which is significantly more. So
For sure.
yeah, good all round. Then just for fun, I'm pretty sure this is the same year. You just go and win Snapper like directly afterwards, right? It was like a month later.
Yeah.
So just top the bank account up even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a pretty crazy sort of month spread for you there. At that point, were you just going on like I'm ripping? Like were you just feeling on top of the world at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like pretty good. Obviously, like winning feels good.
Yeah.
And doing well feels good. It's like just that validation, I guess, is like every human likes it.
Yeah.
Like you, but yeah, also knowing that like when you are having success, that like remember not to get too big and not too ahead of yourself, and that like, just sport is humbling. Sport is rocky road, and if you like there's always going to be ups and downs. So like as well, I try not to I've learnt through doing well at different times to not let the highs get ahead of yourself and let them make you go too up in the stars and away from reality, because it's all going to turn around, and there's going to be times where like you're not killing it and you don't have people patting you on the back and you don't have congratulations, and you got to just still be comfortable with the human you are. So that's something that I've learned is just like to understand that when things are doing well, it's awesome, but like not to just like relish in that. Yeah. Because it's not that helpful as well. Like all that like feeling good and just like validation, it's like it's awesome because it's just encouraging that you're doing the right things, but not to let it derail you from who you are and what you should be doing. It's probably pretty important, I'd say.
Absolutely.
I got to take a quick leak.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question for you anyway. So that first season on tour, did you have a goal of where you wanted to finish in terms of like rankings wise? You just didn't set anything?
Nah.
Just re-qualifying was good enough?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing a top 10 finish in your first year was pretty chuffy, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think like, to be honest, like that first year, like I had a lot of good experiences, but the one thing that just still like sits in my mind as a really bad taste was the way I finished the year in Tahiti. Like I had an absolute shocker in the ways we're cooking.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I actually, that every opportunity, like I've learned so much, and especially that one, like I was in a chance to make the final 5 and it was a long shot.
Yeah.
At that time, but I was genuinely going there, like trying to make that final 5 or thinking that, wow, like these is barreling waves, like anyone's got a shot.
Yeah.
Like anyone can make this. So like, I guess what I really learned a lot from that back half of the year as well, as much as the success I had early on, I really learned, a few valuable things in that back half of the year.
Yeah. And for those out there that don't know, you're a bit of a madman. You're a bit of an undercover madman, and you probably won't say it yourself, but I'm happy to call it, because some of the waves you paddle into in your life and some of the footage I've seen of you surfing in solid waves, most people getting their first year on tour, going to Chopes, are probably, you kind of almost give them an excuse, go, oh, that's their first year. But for you, I'm sure in your own self as well, you would have had high expectations for yourself in that event, knowing that, hey, I'm not afraid to turn and go on one of these things if they come. Is that also disappointing for you as well, going, this is an event that potentially could jump into top 5. Yeah. Obviously, I need a pretty decent result here, but more so, I just want to show the world that I'm going to go if one comes my way.
100%. I remember my first ever heat, at Chopes, and it was Connor, myself, and Jacko. We'd been there for like a month before.
What a heat.
No, that wasn't the heat.
Sorry.
We'd just been there prior.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the event, and the whole time we were there, it was dead flat. Yeah. And we never got to surf the back ledge. And the first swell was for the heat, and I had Seth, Menes, and Semi Pupo.
Right.
And I remember the one thing I said to myself that I'd learnt from earlier in the year when pipe was pumping, to be calculated and not to just go everything, because my first ever heat on pipe, it was absolutely pumping, and I was just going I was just trying to go get the wave of my life, and I was like, whoa, strip it back. Like, let's just be calculated. And that was something that was super important to me in that event. And I remember the first set came, and I was like watching this set. I was like, all right, Callum, be super calculated. Be super calculated when this set comes. You don't need to have the Hail Mary wave. You just need to pick a decent wave. And the set comes, the first one comes through, and Seth goes, are you going? And I was like, just turned around and started paddling. Didn't even like look at the wave, like didn't really consider the wave, and just like put my head down, tried to airdrop, and just went straight through my board, went up and over, got pumped. And I was just like, what the actual hell? Like, it was just like a biggest shocker. And then Sammy was actually he's one of the most calculated surfers when the waves are big.
Yes.
He probably doesn't have a reputation for charging, but
yeah,
him and the quality of results, like he's had a 5th at pipe, and I think he had maybe a 7 and a 6 in that heat. He's very calculated when it comes to, and that's something that I really want to work into my approach, especially when the waves are solid. Just be a little bit more calculated. Like, you don't have to be the hero. You don't have to get the wave of your life in the heat. It's about making the heat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's where I want to try and find a bit more balance with.
Yeah, amazing. Next year, not as good of a year. Although you started in a similar vein, you get a 3rd at Portugal, right? That's the year you get the friggin' pretty much look to everyone watching.
They're still recycling that clip from Portugal.
The wave of doom. Like, I feel like they would have still been trying to dig you out of the sandbank had you fallen on that takeoff. Was that thing? Did it look when it came in just like the perfect peak for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I needed an 8 something at that point, and it was a very similar experience to what I just had at Newey, where I needed a big score right at the end. And basically, like, I remember I just had a shock. Like, I'd had a wave prior, and it was a massive left, and I was like in it, and I remember dragging into it, and then like for some reason, we just came from pipe.
Yeah.
So I decided it was a good idea because I was working on it over there. I was trying to let go of the rail and start to work on like how Jow and John were trying to do those no hand pumps because the judges were loving it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I've got this covered. Like, I'm like in this hell pit, like it's a hell one. And I like got it off Gabby and Maxine because I was on the inside. This is the start of the heat.
Yeah.
I drag into it. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's perfect. So I let go of the rail, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, find myself like just turning, and I'm like, oh no. And then all of a sudden I'm just like backsliding down in this freaking massive pit. And I was like, oh my God, that's got to be a 9 going begging.
Oh no.
And then this was just with a bad run. Maxine and Gabby were both just being super calculated in that heat.
Yeah.
And then it came down to like about 5 minutes to go, and I was like, well, I'm basically staring down the barrel of a 33rd here. And at that point I hadn't had any good results. So I was like, I kind of in that moment accepted like potentially being off tour.
Yes.
Because at that point I really needed a big result, and I was in that elimination round, and I was like, well, I'm staring down the barrel of 33rd. That's probably my spot on tour gone. So I was like, well, the one thing I know that's going to get me out of this is finding the cleanest water and the biggest TP I can. And so I literally just was like, that's how simple my simplistic mind went.
Yeah.
After that, after I'd accepted and let go of that outcome, I was just like, okay, well, now I've got 5 minutes to go. What's my best chance to try and make this heat? And I was like, I need to find clean water, find the cleanest bank, like, because that's important when you're surfing beaches and they're really big. It's just like you're just trying to find clean water.
Yeah.
And I just remember I just need to find the biggest TP. Like, whatever, I just need to see the biggest corner is what I'm looking for. I just need no wall because the bank was so straight and so shallow that any bit of wall closed out.
Yeah.
So I just looked for the biggest corner and the cleanest water. And I remember Maxine was paddling out the rip because he just caught a wave, and he's paddling over to get it, and I could see it coming over this wave, and I was just paddling as hard as I could over to the spot because I was like, one thing I'm not letting him do is get a 9 straight in front of my face when I've got priority.
Yeah.
And I remember him trying to paddle into it, but it was so like sucking up from underneath that I was like, he was like probably like 10, 15 minutes deeper than me. And I was like, I'm just going this thing even if I have to fall from the sky, because I'm like, there's no way I'm letting him get it. And then at that point I realized that, oh wow, he's way far out. And I was like, felt like I was pretty under it.
Yeah.
And I just turned and started paddling, and was just literally just felt like I just went into autopilot and just kind of threw my board off the takeoff. And I remember the one thing I thought about was when you're in like a big cabin, there's so much water pulling up. So a lot of people were like, I've made the mistake so many times when I'm in big barrels, because I don't actually get to surf big barrels that often, is pulling up way too quick and really just like thinking you don't have as much time as you do.
Sure.
But I remember just going, okay, make sure you just be patient on this bottom turn because there's going to be so much water pulling up. I just went, just be patient. You've got more time than you think. And I remember just doing just edging my bottom turn and just looking up and just going, oh my God, please make this. Because I just was like, at that point I was like, this has got to be the score.
Yeah.
And people asked me like, oh, did you know it was going to be a 10 at the time? And like, I just remember just going, that has got to be the score. Like I was like, I never
waiting for that. I was like, surely.
Yeah.
Never once did 10 come into my mind, but all my thought process was that's got to be the score. And because I needed like a high 8 at that point or something. And that was the most euphoric feeling in my career.
Wow.
By far. Like to be so down and out.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like I'd won the comp after that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I was literally just like, I had to like check myself because I was like, I'm just made the elimination room. Like, but the feelings were like that of I just won the comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was purely pretty tripping. Like I was just so buzzing, just so like so much adrenaline, so much high. Everyone was like chuffed on the beach, and it was just like, yeah, it was one of those just autopilot moments where it just works, and yeah, it's tripping.
And that wave really pretty much rescued your spot on tour for that year, because if you fallen off there, like you probably do fall off, as you mentioned.
100%.
That's your best result of that year. You get a 3rd place, end up with it there at Portugal. Finished 20th on the rankings that year. So you're still on tour, which is fine, but obviously your first year was really good. This year's not so good. And then we get into 2024, I believe that's where you actually do fall off the tour, get to Margie's. You're still in with a shot at Margie's, but that wave itself is a nightmare for anyone. Don't matter who you are, unless you're John, maybe. Yeah. That's maybe where you draw the line there. But to try and find a result there is difficult. How hard was that for you to take at that point?
It was definitely difficult because I felt like since being on tour, like obviously, like we spoke about earlier, I didn't expect to be on tour. I didn't expect to be a CT surfer that was going to surf and travel the world, and that was going to be a reality for me from early on.
Yeah,
I felt like that dream was so far in the future, and I was expecting to like potentially it'd take me 10 years to achieve. So for me to achieve it in the very first year and realize how good being on tour actually was, like you're getting paid well, you're being able to travel the world. Everywhere you go, people are patting you on the back and like want to like get your autograph or different things. It becomes a bubble of reality.
Yes.
And it's like it is exactly that.
Yeah.
And if you get swept up in it and let that become part of your identity, it's really hard when you do fall off. You don't have people like, it's just not the same thing. And that when you from when you have that early success like I did, I probably just that bubble of reality I just didn't want to let go of. I didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
And I think that was the reason why I did end up falling off, is because all my performances were so gripped tight on just not falling off tour and not losing it.
Yeah.
Because I'd done so much to get it that I just didn't want to lose it, because it was so fun, it was so good, and it was just like this ultimate bubble of reality. Like it was like not realistic.
It's that thing of like surfing almost like defensively, right? Rather than attacking it. Obviously, you like said, you work so hard to be there. Maybe I don't want to speak for you here, but like you probably feel like if you go back to the Challenger Series, like you're not achieving where you should be anyway, you know, and not wanting to let it go. So you kind of almost go into your shell a little bit, right? And try and surf defensively, but then that generally doesn't work out, right?
Exactly. And it's like, that's exactly what was my response. Like I started to surf a little bit defensively. I didn't continue to take risks when I needed to take risk, which is important as a surfer and as a competitor. So there was a few different things I didn't continue to do. And that's what kind of led to me falling off, which at the time was super hard, but it's probably been like everybody like kind of says from these moments, it's like, it was probably a pretty important part of my process and my development as a surfer and as a human and as an athlete. So I'm like in the long term probably going to be thankful for that moment, but you're right, at the time that was a really hard pill to swallow.
So you go through the tour, you're on tour, you have a good year, 10th, then you have a somewhat mediocre year of 20th, then you fall off on 2024. You're back on now, so you've had a bit of a taste at all the concepts of the tour. Do you believe that you deserve to stay there long term now? Yeah. It's not like the first time when you're on like testing the waters, like, oh, I got to verse this guy. Like you're ready.
Yeah, I just believe that like through going back and like the year I didn't qualify, I was 2 spots off after missing an event at US Open, and then being injured that year, and then still coming back and almost qualifying, and then this year like having a shocking start but still clawing my way back to a position where I finished 6th in the rankings. Like for me, I feel like through when I put my mind to the sport, and when I really just like dial in, like I believe that like I can go up against anybody and at least give him my best shot. And that's the thing at the end of the day, is that like for kids out there that don't think they can actually do it, it's like, what's the harm in going and trying? And you figure it out. Like there's no point in not doing it and not believing, because like at the end of the day, I'm only as good as I'm ever going to be right now. I'm going to continue to improve as much as I can. But what I get excited about is just trying to just match up against the best surfers and really just try and push my performance and push who I am as a competitor, and just like trying to improve as much as I can. Because at the end of the day, I got so caught up on the outcome when I was there last time, right? Yeah. And like I know that when I focus and get caught up on the outcome and get caught up in whether I think I can or I think I can't, that's not that helpful. No. At the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter if I think I can or I think I can't. I know I can go in there and surf my best and see how I go. So like for me, I feel like people get so caught up on being confident and putting all their work into telling themselves that they're going to go there and kill it and go top 5 straight away. It's like, just go there and do your best and you'll find out. And like, that's feel like how I've approached most of my competitive years, and especially my best competitive years, is that I focus on the process that's going to allow the performance to thrive. And like, whether that happens or it doesn't, you're still going to learn. So like, I'm more excited to go, like, to your question of thinking, do I believe I deserve to be there? It's like, I believe I'm one of the better competitors and surfers within the sport, and I'm just excited to go and try and actually marry that up to some results and some outcomes through focusing on my process. So yeah, I don't get caught up in thinking I can or I can't, to be honest.
I love it.
Good way to be.
100% good way to be.
Let's jump into this year then. You kind of touched on it then. Sort of fall off tour 2024, missed Challenger Series that year. Then you get into this year. Sorry, you missed qualification back from the Challenger Series. Get back to this year. You start off with a 49th, a 25th, and a 33rd. So not a great start, especially by your standards. You do pick up like a 9th place, which is kind of an okay result. You can work with those. And then straight back into a 17th after that. Coming into Pipe, which is the second last event of the year, are you more so going, because obviously you know you can surf Pipe well, are you more so looking at getting into that top 20 and staying on the Challenger, or are you still believing I'm still a shot at the tour here?
Well, like I just mentioned and what I just said, like I obviously believe I can do it, and I know like if the chips fall where they may, the potential for me to have back-to-back good results is well and truly possible.
It's there, yeah.
But like you said, that when we were going into that event, I remember saying to the boys, boys are going to be coming home with a wet sail here, because I felt like I was building through Portugal and Brazil, and even though those results didn't really reflect the way that I felt about how I was competing, so I felt like I was building momentum there, and for me, I just felt like I don't know. I was just talking to the boys. I remember, like, I know Morgs had to come home strong, and we were just saying, like, I just felt like there was something coming, and there was a bit of momentum building. Yeah. But to your point, I was tossing up with that feeling of momentum building and feeling like I was building on the right approach, to then also knowing I'm a real chance of not requalifying for the Challenger Series here, and looking down the barrel of the regional QS, which is a very far cry from where the World Tour is.
Yes.
So like, and the way the system's set up is that then you've got to work back, and you're probably 2 years from actually getting back to that point.
Yeah.
So like, that's a reality that didn't sit well with me. I was like, far out, like that would suck. And like, I really don't want that to happen, because like, that's 2 years of some of my best competitive times in my life. And so like, being able to try and like somewhat accept that as a potential pathway is probably an important part.
Yeah.
Because like, at the end of the day, like, they're all potential realities. It's about you just going and trying your best to make the one you want work out. And I remember just going into that Pipe, just trying to focus on those same things that I was building through Portugal and Brazil, which was really about that adaptability.
Yep.
This is something that's really important for me recently. And that was kind of what showed in that event was I didn't probably have the most highlight performance, but I was very adaptable for the conditions that I had and the moments that I had.
Yeah.
I was in the back half of the draw, and I remember me and Chippo were going down to the beach surfing in the morning, coming back, having our brekkie, and just the conversations we were having in the car from Pipe back to our accommodation, knowing that it was going to be onshore by the time we surfed, or a lot more subpar of what it was, because it was absolutely cooking in the morning.
Yeah.
Proper cooking. Me and Chip were just like licking our chops, just going, oh my God, why are we in the back half of the draw? Like,
Yeah.
semi-spewing, but just knowing that, okay, we've got to let go of everything that just happened in the morning, because that's not going to be the reality of our heats.
Yes.
Like, the reality of our heats is going to be much different, and we're going to have to rely on our competitive savvy and just surfing what's in front of us and doing our best, rather than just like probably the run that Morgs had, where he was just like, had amazing waves and was like, and surfing them amazing.
Yeah.
But probably had way better conditions, or just easier conditions from it, just like, you can just sit there, you know what you're looking for, and you know they're coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of path through that event was, I feel like, very, just for me, like, the most common word that I kept going back to is like making sure I'm adaptable.
Yes.
I wasn't getting fixated on a certain approach, because the heats were changing so consistently, especially on that final day.
Yeah.
Like, it was pumping in the morning, and then it started to go a little onshore and weird, and then it started pumping again for GP's heat, where he got that crazy wave that was almost a 10, and then it went onshore again. So it's just like so much fluctuation in conditions. So yeah, I didn't feel like my performances shone that hard in that event till probably the final, but it was more so my adaptability for the conditions. That was my key to success. Yeah.
And we made that reel on our Instagram straight afterwards, because we were just went through all your results, and you mentioned it before, you weren't getting those high excellent scores that all the other Aussies were getting, but it seems like you weren't attached to that. It was like, hey, I'm just doing what I need to do here to get through. Your average heat total was nowhere near theirs, but you adapted to the conditions at the time, and you executed when you need to, which was in the final, dead onshore. And probably a little bit where that air game factor starts coming into your favour a little bit. You're not known so much for it, as you touched on earlier, but then when you do break it out in competition, you're really confident in it, and the judges go, well, Cal's got a pun on him. Do you feel the same way? Were you going, well, if I just take to the skies here, it's just going to really benefit me here?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't something that was front of mind, because I had Eli and Griffin, and they are aerial specialists, right? So I thought, well, the likelihood of me out punting them is probably going to be a little bit slim. So my original thought process was I need to just put myself on the better waves, and really try and just go to my the solid kind of solid surfing. I was pick better waves. If I can find barrels, that's something I'm quite comfortable with, is hunting out barrels in a very average lineup. So that was something I was all right, I know I can hunt the reef. I know I can look for the clean water and the little double up. That was something that I was okay, that could be a potential strength in this event, in this last final. But the funny thing was that conditions deteriorated so quick from the start of the day to the end of the day that I had about 5 or 6 boards down there on the beach by the end of the day, and not a single one of them was a normal shorty, or even a 2-inch step up. That I had a 6.2 in the car that I needed to surf, and the decision from the semi-final to the final to actually run happened really, really quick, and I didn't have a single board that suited the conditions by that point, because I was dropping down, and I came in from my semi-final and I had about 4 texts telling me to get off that board.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was riding a 6.6, and it was it went from hog and pits to then just grindy onshore, and I was doing these turns on this 6.6 in the heat with Lobby, trying to just make it work, and I was oh my god, that's so hectic. I was definitely the wrong board.
Yeah.
But
does that explain the 5.8 heat total in the semi?
It was just deteriorating. Went from pumping, which is why I chose to ride the 6.6, but then as a heat, it just kind of got worse and worse, and I had to adapt. And then that's why I was actually late for the final. And I remember a few people saying that was by on purpose. And I was trying to psych her out. I was literally waiting on the beach for a backup board. The beach marshal was sitting there going bro, you got to get out there. And I was look, I don't have a board. I had a 6.4 at that point, and I ended up riding a 6.2, which was still probably even a little bit long and a bit of a step up for what it was. But I remember just sitting there just going I can't surf this heat seriously if I'm on a 6.4. I need to wait. And I got Bottle to run up there. So Bottle was running up there. I was waiting. They're putting pressure on me to get out there. And we had to put new fins in the board, set it up, wax it up, all within, and then ran straight out. So it was just a bit of a whirlwind. But luckily I did, because when that wave came that I did do the pun on, that was very reactive. That wasn't and when I spoke about earlier, that's something that I did at the start of this year, was that I tried to force the airs to come out. I worked on them so much that I wanted to bring them out. I wanted to show everyone everything I've been working on, and I did it just where I tried to force those performances out, and instead of in that pipe heat, and how it actually ended up working for me was just reacting to the section and letting them naturally come out when the time was right. So to back to the original thing, I didn't go out there with the intention to punt. And that wave was I was actually thinking layback off the start. I was I need to do a big Larry, because Morgs had priority and didn't go it. And I was this looks good enough. I want to do a big Larry and then try and get a finish, and try and just keep bumping up my scores. And as I went off the bottom, I was it's kind of just one section. And if you watch the clip, I kind of adjust my hips and my position last minute to kind of huck the punt. And I remember landing the punt and just going, that felt sick. I was chuffed, because I was on a 6.2, and the 6.2 board I had was pretty heavy. And I ended up pumping across and finishing. I was fuck, that's gonna be surely that's gonna be a decent score. And then I seen Morgs belt his way behind me, and I was just when I first paddled out for that heat, I was I don't want to come fourth. I really don't want to come fourth or third, because I know the points is going to be so much different at first or second. And I wanted to put myself in the best position for Newey, and that's why I got a really quick start, because I was just like you said, the heat prior, I got 5 total points, and I was and the 2 surfers below me even got lower than that. So I was if I can get 6 or 7 points, surely I'm not getting last. And that's why I got 2 less really quickly, and that kind of opened me up to just kind of free flow and kind of attack a little bit more.
Yes.
And yeah, that was kind of my process for that heat. And I just remember just sitting there with Morgs going like knowing Morgs is going to be in a pretty cushy position. And he was the one that was kind of really like staring down the barrel. And I was just thinking, surely he's not trying to beat me right now. I'm like, surely he's not trying to beat me right now. He's like, surely he knows I need to win this thing to get like, give myself a real good shot.
Yeah.
But he was like saying to me, he was thinking that to Griffin. He was thinking that to Griff, like, surely Griff, you're not trying to beat me right now. I was like, it was like just funny. Like we kind of debriefed it after and we're both kind of thinking the same thing. But the last part of that heat just went for so long.
Yes.
Like the last 10 minutes when I kind of established a really good heat total, like 14 points for those conditions. Like if you told me 14 points at the starter, that heat, I would have been chuffed. And then Griffin and Morgs both needed 6s or high 6s, which was well in their wheelhouse. That heat just felt like it went forever. And I was just like, come on. And I was just praying for closeout sets. I was just praying for wash throughs. I was like, please. And yeah, ended up like just eking it out and just like being smart with my priority and my decision. And that was probably one of the smartest tactically surfed heats I've ever surfed.
Yeah.
Which I was like pretty chuffed with. Regardless of the result, I was more happy with the performance to finally kind of felt like it clicked. And to one, to bring out the airs, and two, just to be super sound tactically. Felt pretty nice.
Yeah. Good time for it to click as well, right?
Yeah,
The final of Pipe.
Yeah, so you get the win at Pipe. That most definitely, you start to think, okay, yeah, it's within earshot now to get back to where I want to be.
We're up in 11th at that point. You go from like 40th or whatever to like
Skyrocket up. Full like snakes and ladders, just found the best ladder on the whole game.
Yeah.
Into Newey, another clutch performance, big punt with 1 second to go.
Yeah, literally.
You can't get any later than that. It was unbelievable. A good result at Newey, which brings us to the present day. You have qualified for the World Tour again. Congratulations.
Cheers, thank you.
We're only 2 weeks, 10 days away from starting off the season.
It's not long. It's 8. There's literally 8 days.
Yeah, it starts on the 1st.
Yep. What's gone into your toolkit this year that wasn't in your toolkit in the first 2022 toolkit?
Yeah.
So what are you bringing?
I'd say a much more mature understanding, for one, like a much more mature understanding of what the tour is and what it means to be on tour, and like a much more developed approach for myself, just going on there and knowing what I want to go and do. I'd say 2 would probably be just like the progression side of my surfing, especially at different locations. Like even Bells and Winky can be super fun little air winds, and El Salvador. And I'm just trying to, like, my goal is to surf each wave I catch like as well as I can. Whether that requires punts or that requires rail surfing or barrels or a combination of all of it, that's kind of what I want to bring. It's just like I'm more freed up and just kind of like connected to the situation approach.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because I just want to attack and just do my best surfing. Like I realize I've got nothing to lose. Like at the end of the day, like I'm not holding on to that really need to be on tour from like a belonging point of view, or like feeling good about myself. But I know like what's important to me is the process that I go about it. I'm really trying to just, at the end of the day, when I've lost, what actually matters to me is like, do I feel proud of the way I performed? And if I feel proud of the way I performed, I can put my head on the pillow at night and sleep. Like, but it's those heats that keep you up is when you don't do what you know you can do, and you're not proud of the decisions and the performance you made.
Yes.
They're the ones that are hard to sleep with. So the more I can go in there and do performances that I'm proud of, that will put me in a good position. So I think definitely just a more mature approach. And then just to understand that my surfing's evolved a lot. Even my surfing's evolved a lot, especially around just like the progression and just like my barrel riding. Like when I first got on tour, I hadn't even got barreled that much around the world. Like I hadn't traveled much. Now I've traveled a lot more. I'd just say like a more just mature approach all around.
Yeah. Do you have a goal for this year? Do you have a spot, or you don't have to say if you don't want to, but you can put it into the airwaves if you want.
Yeah. To be honest, like from Newey to here has happened so fast, and I've had like a lot on, so I haven't really like that. That's something that I'll probably do right before I head on the plane down, is trying to just get real clear on what my year looks like, and what I really want to achieve. But I'd say just more so to the point of what I just said, just more around just trying to do my best and do performances that I'm proud of. I really want to win an event. That's something that I want to come back and do. I've won events at the Challenger Series level twice now, and like just like to really feel that like level of accomplishment, I think trying to win an event is like something that like excites me. And it's just like, well, that is a pretty big carrot dangled, and and I've obviously came second and came close. So like, I'd love to win an event, whether that happens this year or next year or 3 years. It's like that's my first goal, and then go from there.
I'm getting deja vu.
There's the next Largo effect.
That is deja vu. So we had
We've had
Connor.
Connor
was the exact same. He got second at Cloud Break.
Yeah.
Never had won an event. Said, I really just want to win an event. Sitting in that chair. Well, it was actually in the lounge room, but I reckon there's an event win coming.
Good. Let's go to Largo.
Yeah, there's a good something there.
It's real. The Largo effect's real. This camera's might be about to explode, but I really want to get into quickly. We've got some questions for after, but if that goes, that's like when these happen, that's fine. I'd rather get this through first. Really want to give you a chance to plug and explain to the listeners. So you've got Project 6 and you've also got Project 7 as well. This I only just recently found out about before this.
I'm learning about this right now. What the fuck?
Do you want to give us a rundown of both and I guess what the differences are and what you plan to do with them?
Yeah, so Project 6 is something that I started last year, and that was all around just like all the in-person stuff, right? It was all around me. It got built really around the board riders clubs and going and delivering different like workshops with the board riders clubs, because I see a massive gap in the market, especially for somebody that's for that high level coaching information. Because I feel like there's a lot of coaching out there. There's probably not the Australian like board riders community probably doesn't have access to the highest level information, whether that be through the high performance center or through people that have been at the highest level. So I just wanted to create that like accessibility to myself as a surfer that's been on the championship tour and as a coach. Like I wanted to just be able to help kids like navigate the landscape of just trying to improve their surfing. Like one, if they want to just improve and just love the sport of surfing, or two, help guide kids if they want to trying to pursue a real career. So that Project 6 is kind of built off the back of that, and just trying to give myself a platform to be able to share information, because like I've been working at the HPC a lot of the time, and I just kind of wanted to just branch out and just create myself a platform. So whether I was on or off tour, I had an opportunity to coach and to one, like just make money to support myself on the Challenger Series. And yeah, Project 6 is just everything in person, and I've kind of finished the event the year off by doing the Grom Games, which is a really cool concept that I love. It was about gamifying like a regular surf camp where you'd go and I've done the performance camps before, where I bring in my sports psych, my physio and my S&C coaches, and then the nutritionist, and then we bring in different pro surfers to do Q&As or like jet ski sessions. And this was about bringing that all into an actual event. So it was a gamified series where the Groms would compete in teams across all these different aspects, and they'd all gather points to reward the Grom, or like crown the Grom Games champ at the end of the year. So we had Connor come and do a Q&A. I did like surf trivia the first night. Then we did a stress test with my sports psych Patchy, and then Paulie did like a physical physical prep aspect of the camp, and then also just like a nutrition workshop was like a ready steady cook. We had different stations set up around the caravan park, and this was all presented by Reflections Holidays at Evans, and they did an amazing job at supporting the event and getting it off the ground. So yeah, they had a ready steady cook, and it was just like a really fun gamified camp. And then Jacob and Morgs came and actually judged the surf comp, which was on the final day. So you had real pro surfers actually judging you and giving you guys these Groms insight into what it actually took to get scored and to understand. It was just fun. It's just really fun. The Groms all enjoyed it. And that kind of led me to Project 7, which is why it's called Project 7, is because it's like the next project. Like Project 6 was this one, which is obviously my number, and Project 7 is the next stage of that. And Project 7 is everything that I've done in person is now going to be online in a platform where anyone around the world can access it. So something that I feel like the kind of the hallmark of my career is being able to really understand everything to a high level, to then be able to actually teach myself it. So I'm basically taking everything I've learned over my career and continue to learn and putting it into one platform, whether that be for an everyday surfer or a competitive Groms, to really thrive and get the most out of their surfing. And it's like very simplified, because surfing is a very complex sport, right? There's so much information out there. And what I'm trying to do with Project 7 is just create a simplified platform where people actually can hear it from people that have actually done it, and professionals in the sports, whether that be around the physical prep side, whether that be a nutrition side, whether that be from the surf coaching side. I just see a lot of information out there and people probably feeling a little bit lost and confused about what actually is like verified and actually legit information worth listening to. So that's my goal with Project 7, is just to really create a one-stop shop for performance and a platform that everyone can have access to, and to get the most out of their surfs. And that's what I've actually been doing in between Newey and here, was filming a lot of the content.
Yeah.
And like when I
It doesn't stop, does it?
yeah, when I film it all, like, to be honest, it makes me feel so good, because I just go, wow, this is exactly what I would have wanted when I was a Grom.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody could have, that was something that was really like, when I talk about that obsessive nature, I wanted to learn so much, but I didn't, there was nobody there. Like, you could go to the high performance center, but to be honest, the actual HP part of the building, the high performance part of the building, is very exclusive.
Yes.
It's only reserved for the top 30 surfers in Australia.
Oh, wow.
So it's not very open to everybody to actually be able to go and learn from, say, B Durbridge at the time, or even like have access to these different high level like network coaches.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about opening that up and just going like, well, that was like, I had to go through, and I was like, would lead down 1,000 different rabbit holes trying to learn what worked. And I just want to take all that guesswork out of it for Groms and parents, trying to like help them guide through it. And just like, as well, when kids are given everything and they're told everything and they get a plan mapped out, and like, or just like, they always have a coach they can work with. This is like done from a little bit of a distance.
Yeah.
So I feel like, it's going to really like incentivize kids to understand it for themselves, go out there and do a little bit of the work. Like, and this all happens at the right time. But to be honest, it's something that like I'm very, very passionate about, and super excited to see come to life, because I honestly just think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, especially from everyday surfers, just like falling in their frontside snaps, wanting to, not feel so frustrated every time they go surfing, to then a competitive Grom wanting to understand the pathway of what I believe is going to lead you to success. And whether that's success competitively as a surfer or just success as a human, I feel like it's a bit more of a holistic approach to just developing young Groms and people wanting to improve their surfing.
Mate, that's so impressive.
Oh, fucking hell. I think you're in a big blue sea, and you're the only ship in that kind of sea doing that, because you've got the validity behind your name. You're obviously putting what you're talking about into practice on the big stage. Like you said, it's hard to work with a coach that you surf better than sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, all right, I'll do that. And then you
Yeah.
watch them surf and you're like, oh, he might have been good when he was 30, but
Yeah.
I don't know about
Yeah.
it now. Not saying that they don't know
Yeah.
what they're talking about, but it just hits home when your coach is fucking doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
There is no debating.
Yeah. And every coach plays their role, right? Like every coach does play their role, whether that be a learn to surf coach, and then a intermediate coach, like, or somebody trying to help you just understand the basics around technique. Like, they all still play their part. And I just want to create a platform where people can come hear it from me and everything I've learnt, because I feel like I've just gone too deep on all this stuff to not share what I have in my brain, and the processes that I've created to help simplify it. And like you said, it definitely feels rewarding to me to be able to perform when I've got this platform that I like try and teach kids about, and then to actually go and back it up, for me feels really rewarding. And just to like go like, well, no, the proof is in the pudding. Like, I can go and actually put these things exactly what I'm telling these Groms and these adults, and go and actually put it into practice for myself. And surfing's a hard sport to understand and really like simplify. That's what I've struggled with anyway. So that's my goal with it, is just to simplify the difficult sport that surfing is.
And it sounds like it's not taking a break this year.
No.
Not going on the back seat for a little bit.
Well, like, yeah, my obviously my number one goal is to win an event and to perform as well as I can on tour. But my brain, I just have a brain that I love to do both, and I'm multi-passionate. And yeah, I want to bring somebody on the road helping me create content and help drive that. But I've been building on this for a long time. So this isn't something that I've decided to do overnight. It's something that's been in the works for a very long time. And that was the reason why I started Project 6, is to have that kind of forward-facing front that kids can actually experience what it's like for me to coach them, and to kind of build that reputation, that trust within the community around the type of work that I do, so people can actually see it for themselves, feel and experience what it's like to be coached by me. And then obviously the goal was to launch an online platform down the track. So I guess that's the stage where I'm at now, and it couldn't happen at a better time.
No,
Because I'm going to have very limited time this year, and so to be able to actually leverage that online platform to see and speak to as many groms and as everyday surfers that I can, it's definitely going to be beneficial in the point of my career where I'm at.
I love it.
100%.
I think it's going to go off. It's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big hit. So well done.
Yeah,
So
fingers
far.
crossed. Cheers.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
I think we've fucking chewed our
We're only
brains
gonna let
off.
this bloke go surfing. He's got bells to go on.
I've chewed your absolute ear off. Sorry, boys.
No,
mate.
I reckon there's a fucking book coming in there. Are you thinking books? You're so philosophical. I knew you were smart and switched on, but I didn't know you were this philosophical.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's just part of my journey that I've just become this way. And I knew from an early age that I wanted to be successful and stuff, but I just didn't know what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess through just a lot of research, you realize that there is a bit of a formula for people that want to get the most out of their lives. And that's kind of what I've learned. And that's kind of the way I speak, I feel, is that I take everything I've learned and just speak it how I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I definitely think that's what I learned from playing footy, where I was just a meathead and was just harder, faster, everything. Whereas now I've created a bit more of a spiritual understanding of life and a spiritual connection with myself and everything I do and how I interact. But yeah, life's deep. Life's exciting, and the beauty of life is that you can do whatever you want. And that's where I feel right now. That's empowered me just to go, wow, there's anything, you can do whatever you want. And that's a great, and that's this podcast, right? This was an idea once for you boys thinking about it, and you've actually gone and done it. And that would give you guys evidence that, wow, the more I say I can do things, the more I think about things I want to do and then actually go and achieve them, that just stacks evidence in your corner that you can do things you say you want to do. And I feel like you guys can probably obviously resonate with that.
For sure.
And obviously committing more and more to this podcast, and taking that bigger and bigger step, which sometimes feel daunting, but you just go, wow, that's what life's about, is having that little bit of fear and having that little bit of anxiety with getting outside your comfort zone and then going and doing it. That's what it's all about to me.
Yeah, no, that's why I've been super engaged for the last, I don't know how long we've been going for, because
Mate, if you had this 10 years ago, you would have been on tour, I reckon.
I know. I know. What you're doing is fantastic. So big well done to you. I'm sure it's going to be very fruitful, and it's been a good yarn. But
Cheers.
We've got
few questions.
We got questions, don't you worry. That's
Okay,
lots.
cool.
I was worried because I generally try and put this up the day before.
Yeah.
I knew we only had an hour and a half or whatever until I was going to get to this point, but
Yeah.
we've the people have delivered. Harry O'Brien's the first one. Pack a closeout at 8-foot pipe or run at Payne Haas.
Oh, I'm going the closeout for sure.
similar feeling, though.
Yeah, definitely similar. And pipe scary as hell.
Yeah.
But I was hanging around my cousin at Christmas time, Reese, who plays for the Roosters, and they're big boys. They're thick and big, and he looks like one of the smallest on the field. So I couldn't imagine what staring down the barrel of Payne Haas on a 20-meter dash looks like.
No thanks.
Right, straight.
Jasper Welsh, will we be getting CT vlogs?
Yeah.
Sick. All right.
As part of the content that'll be continuing to roll.
Unreal.
Been loving those, by the way.
Oh, sick.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I think the sport needs that.
Yeah, well,
The behind the scenes shit. We want to know what you guys eat. I watched that one with you and Jarvie,
yeah.
cooking fucking meat on the barbecue. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that's sick.
Yeah.
We all love what you do in the ocean.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
those little bits of fruit that you pick up along the way, little breadcrumbs, I call them.
For sure.
So fucking good. Well done.
No, I like watching the Collabros and what they've done. I think they've been pretty innovative in the space of leading content. I think it shows in the way that they interact with everyone. They're pretty forward thinking in that space, which is something that I want to follow.
Amazing. For sure. This is a question, but I do want to just add a secondary part to this. So it's from Fletchy. What glass jobs do you get on your board? So answer that first, and I've got a second part.
Depends on the conditions and the type of board.
Yeah.
My standard shorties are just 2 4s.
Yeah.
But then for real high performance shorties, sometimes I'll throw a 3/4 patch on if I've been demo on the decks.
Yeah.
But when you go on tour, it's kind of just becomes 3 4s, a standard glass job of what a lot of stock boards come with.
So just 2 on top, 1 on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick.
But yeah, and then obviously it goes up and up. I like my big wave board to be a bit heavier.
Yeah. See, that's interesting for me because I've just recently started. I've always, when I was younger, I used to drag my knee a lot.
Yeah.
When I was taking off, I fixed it. It didn't take long. I just had to put my mind to it. But I used to drag my knee, which meant I couldn't ride 1/4 on top. Always feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I've just started doing it, but I've started creasing a lot of surfboards as well, which is worrying. So good to know that you're on tour and you're riding a 3/4 patch at least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's cool. My my second part of that question though. So what are you riding right now? Everyone always likes to know. Obviously, you're now with DHD. What's your kind of, I guess maybe what's your bells quiver looking like? What have you got?
I've got 4 new boards coming for bells. So I've got 2 511s, 2 6.0s. I've already got a few others obviously around that area. But what we're doing for bells is that like I've got round tabs in my quiver, but something that DH has been experimenting with, like Connor and Ethan a lot, is putting just narrow squares on their step ups, or just their boards for better waves. So instead of going down the round path, I've actually got all like little swallow, not swallows, squash squares coming. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, for bells, I don't go any bigger than 6'1". I've never needed to. If there's 50-year storm coming, I'd probably ask Cale Bell Warren to borrow one of his sticks up in the board shed like you've got here in the Largo den. But I'll go from 5'11" all the way to 6'1" for bells, and then I've got another batch coming for muggies.
And just Juliet's, or what are you running?
Yeah, Juliet's.
Yep, sick.
I see.
I just run a version of the Juliet, so really fast for me, and I've done some work to adjust some things with DH and the team in there. Just adjusted them for more speed. But it's definitely interesting. Last year time I was on the CT, I was riding 6.0s permanently, and I dropped back to a 5'11" when I was on the challenges because I felt like it just fit the performance waves a little better. So it's going to be interesting getting back to those World Tour locations and seeing if I'm going to be opting for 6.0s or 5'11s for my normal shorty.
How many litres?
29.5.
Nearly in the 30s.
Well, I was like 30.5.
Oh, really?
Until last year, but I tried to like lean up my frame, like get a little bit leaner, and because I just wanted to be a bit faster with the way I surfed, and that's where I dropped it back to 29.5, and I feel like the board just sits in the wave a little better. So yeah, it fluctuates.
I think you're pretty well bang on my dim. So any boards that you don't like, just give me a holler.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, your cousins, so surely it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a little bit less rates.
It's a family discount.
I don't think we're cousins. We're something.
You're in the mix.
We'll go cousins.
Yep.
Mike and Marguson, how many wheat bix do you do?
I'm not a wheat bix guy, but I usually, if I do wheat bix, I'm like 4, 3 to 4. Nice. Not crazy turbo. Put some banana and some honey. Away you go.
Some 4 tablespoons of sugar on top, like I used to when I was growing up.
Mate, I used to use caster sugar. Oh, like real bad stuff.
Refined.
Cam Duke, what's your take on the Raglan CT stop? You surfed it before?
No, never surfed it before, and going to be very, very interesting because I think a lot of surfers are going to be in the same boat. A lot of surfers going over there for the very first time, and I reckon that's going to be super, super interesting. I'm excited to go left and try and just drive the bottom and hit the lip as hard as I can. So it's going to be just fun. Like, it's going to be a new experience for a lot of surfers, and that's definitely what the tour needed, right? Needed the left, and we're going to see some pretty exciting performances by a lot of crew.
I did a bit of research when I was over in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, and allegedly the backhanders have a upper edge. So
oh, really?
Yeah,
it's nice to know.
Yeah. I thought I'd throw that one in there.
Happy days.
Jarrett Aitken, pick 3 surfers to take to a deserted island to survive for a year.
I'm going to go number 1, Chippo.
Yeah.
Chippo is pretty resourceful and
survivalist.
Got a good mind on him. I'd say, to be honest, like just like the crew I've been traveling with kind of comes to mind. Like even Morgs, just for like that kind of, he's been just kind of like gritting the teeth a little bit recently, and seems like he'd be kind of putting in the work and
building like shelters and stuff.
He'd be happy to kind of throw a few trees over the shoulder and get going. But who else? I wouldn't mind getting somebody I could listen to some good stories with.
Take like
I reckon Mick wouldn't want to come to the island for a year, but
he doesn't have a choice.
he doesn't have a choice. Or Mick or something like that, just to kind of ask
an old
1,000
dog.
questions. But Connor's all time. So I think just like Connor for good vibes, he'd probably level out me and Morgs' turboness and just like keep a good even keel along the group. But that'd be pretty classic. That'd be a hell group. Me, Morgs, Chip.
Yeah. And you'd probably be on a lot of people's selections because you can cook as well. You'd be like catching like animals and cooking them, so it'd be sick. Okay. We've kind of gone through that. Kurt Johnson, funnest session in Sid. I don't know. Is that like a night out? Is that a night? Yeah.
Funnest session in Sid,
Is
whether
that a
it's in
night
the
out
water or
in the wave pool, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
We might leave that one. I don't know what the reference is. People asking us, can we do a regional QS this year?
Sure.
We'll do. Yeah, maybe. Nick McLaren's asked, does Bonsoi make good weddies? I'm assuming it's not them, not Bonsoi weddies. You're just chucking logos on them.
Yeah, I'm not running Bonsai.
Rick O'Leary, what is your best ever round of golf?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really like. I haven't actually set on the scoring of golf that much. So oftentimes I play 9.
Yep.
The only times I ever play 18 is usually in a Ambrose comp with the boys, and we're just playing out of body or one of those days. So I've never actually done. I think on my best days I'm maybe a bogey golfer, or I'm not that good at golf, but I just enjoy it and I'm not very consistent. But if I can get pars and birdies every now and then and a few bogeys, double bogeys, that's
pretty good.
A couple quads, that's kind of how my scorecard looks.
Does the ball go straight? That's amazing. As long as you get the ball go straight, that's a good start.
Yeah.
That's it. Last one, and we can kind of probably cap here. You don't have to go into too much detail. I'm assuming this is more in reference to your deep dive on his training program. So I'm assuming this is your fitness. Don't go too crazy with it, but what does your week look like in terms of cardio and weight training and stuff like that?
Yeah, I train kind of every second day, to 3 to 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And my sessions have gone from going turbo in the gym and just flogging myself silly to bringing the intensity down, less weight, less heavy weight, more fast twitch movements, and more of a kind of prehab rehab sort of focus around just trying to get my body to move really well, be really mobile. So in my ankles, my knees, my hips, and I train with my physio as well, Paulie, at the moment. So he helps write out all my programs, and what we've been doing is using watch to really manage all my load, the load, and whether I'm surfing a lot that week or I haven't been sleeping that well. We're tracking absolutely everything, so you can create a really calculated approach to my training. And I'll try and fit one bike session in a week.
Yes.
So that's just on the bike doing cardio. So I try to keep it flexible because anyone should know that training comes second to your surfing. Training should be a supplement for your surfing. Surfing's number one. If the waves are pumping, I surf. But I try and stay consistent with my gym program. I miss sessions from time to time, but I try to stay consistent.
Yeah. What's your highest squat weight you've ever done?
Oh, to a box, I've gone pretty heavy, but I just start front squatting now, so I don't do back squats that often, which is you can go way heavier on a back squat.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I was probably around I did a few back squats non-supervised where I probably shouldn't have been around the 150 mark, but that was just box squats to a box, so it's a lot. Yeah. It's not free standing, but I think my front squats at depth were around the 90, but I know Connor does Connor's super strong. When you train with Connor and the boys that train with Pete, they've got a really good program. So I just training is a thing that I enjoy, and I've actually had to learn to strip it back a bit, and focus on surfing more than training, because there's a point there when I was on tour where I was training more than I was surfing.
Yeah, right.
Because I love it, but learning to just understand that surfing comes first and that training should really complement and just supplement your surfing.
I love it. Fuck, I loved every minute of that. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah. And
cheers.
Tide's just starting to shift. Kira's probably going to be pumping in about 2 hours, so we'll let you go. But, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in here. Thanks so much for making time for us, and good luck at Bells.
Cheers.
All the best.
Thanks for
We'll be cheering on.
hearing me yarn.
Absolutely.
Go.